Hello vinyl community, Bradley here. Today I'd like to show another two classic jazz vinyl. The first one is by the Modern Jazz Quartet, and this will probably in rankings maybe come in top 100, I suppose. The name is Django, named after the gypsy guitarist Django Reinhardt. There's the rear of the album. This is on Prestige. This is a reissue. It's got the Prestige yellow fireworks label. Now this album was, I believe it was released in 1956 on this 12-inch LP. But it was recorded earlier in probably, I think, 53 and in 1955 during 3 sessions. And they were originally released as 2 EPs, 10-inch EPs. I believe one in 53 and the other in 55. Rudy Van Gelder is the engineer. So in 56, when Prestige went to the 12-inch LP and did away with 10-inch, they combined them and made this album out of it. Like I said, Rudy Van Gelder was the engineer. The players on this album are Milt Jackson on vibes, John Lewis on piano, Percy Heath on bass, and Kenny Clark on drums. So, and this album, considering it was recorded in 53 and 55, it sounds very, very good. I think I attribute a lot of that to the vibraphones because the vibes kind of come through and really gives a nice crystal clear sound, which really helps the rest of the recording. But it sounds very good for that time period. Just a little brief background on Modern Jazz Quartet. They originally formed in 1952. Some of the members were in the Dizzy Gillespie big band. I think John Lewis was. I would have probably Milt Jackson. And originally when they formed, Ray Brown was the bassist instead of Percy Heath. Now, like I said, on this album, Kenny Clark plays drums. Well, shortly after this album was released, he was replaced. I guess he left, and he was replaced by Connie Kay. So Connie Kay became the drummer, and he remained. So the resulting 4-piece remained the same personnel for 40 years. They played together. Wow, no personnel changes for 40 years. Like I said, this is on Prestige. They eventually went to record for Atlantic Records, and they were with Atlantic for probably 25 years or so. And like I said, originally they formed as kind of like a side group to the Dizzy Gillespie band. And originally, they were kind of known as the Milt Jackson Quartet or Quintet. I'm not really sure. But eventually they changed their name to the Modern Jazz Quartet and did away with the Milt Jackson name. This group was all styles, bebop, hard bop, jazz, or blues. Oh wow! They could play anything basically, and they played really well with other people, so they could slide right in. They were, I think you would call them a classy group. I believe at some of their, well, probably most of their big concerts, like Carnegie Hall and all that, they would wear tuxedos and play. So they were very, very good, very classy. A little bit about the songs. It opens up with the title track, Django. This has gone on to become a jazz classic. I'm not sure who. It was Grant Green, I think. I believe. He did a really nice version of this song using guitar. So anyhow, Django, wonderful composition. Very nice intro, then they have the solos, all that. Really good. The second song, I'll go over a few of these songs. The second song is called One Bass Hit, which was written by Dizzy Gillespie. And this is centers pretty much on the bass. And it's very nice for a song that is centered on bass, because usually, a lot of times they'll, in bass solos and all that, they'll just have the bass. Well, here they have just a little bit of the vibes coming in. So it's really good. Now the third song on the first side is called Le Ronde Suite. And this is like 4 very short songs, excuse me, combined into one song. And it highlights a different musician on each one of these parts of the songs. And each song is probably less than 2 minutes. So the first it's called Piano. And the second song is called Bass, I think, and then Vibes and Drums. So they go through they give solo time to each musician. On the second side, the first song, like I said, I'll just go over a couple of these. The first song is Queen's Fancy, which was written by John Lewis, which he wrote a lot of these songs, at least half of them. And John Lewis was the main composer and musical director of the Modern Jazz Quartet. Modern Jazz Quartet, John Lewis, he always wanted to combine classical music with jazz to come up with a different hybrid. And on this Queen's Fancy, it's definitely classical influence, Bach, in fact. That's what it sounds like to me. Very good song. The third song, a standard, Autumn in New York. It's a standard, great rendition. And on this song, you can hear Milt Jackson grunting and groaning as he plays the vibes in the background. So that's very good. It's got two more songs, But Not For Me by Gershwin, and last song, Milano. So if you're starting out in jazz, you got to have a vibe, a vibraphone, a record with vibraphone in it. Whether it be Gary Burton or Bobby Hutcherson or modern jazz quartet. The vibes are very prominent. They're used as the solo instrument for a lot of the songs. So ratings wise, I'd give it a solid 5. The cover, it's pretty cool. It's got the MJQ and Django. I'd give it a 4. I like my Blue Note. It covers a little better, but that's very good. So anyhow, the next album is a classic. It's always ranked in the top 20. It is by Cannonball Adderley, called Something Else. This was on Blue Note. It was recorded in 1958. And I will go over the musicians. Julian Cannonball Adderley is on alto sax. Miles Davis on trumpet. Hank Jones on piano. Sam Jones on bass. And Art Blakey on drums. So this was recorded and released in 1958. This was either 1 or 2 albums before Miles Davis kind of blew. So you do have Cannonball and Miles Davis on this. Of course, it is on Blue Note. It was engineered by Rudy Van Gelder. And at this time, Cannonball Adderley was a member of Miles Davis' sextet. So they would go on to Kind of Blue the following year. Now, Cannonball, it says Something Else by Cannonball Adderley on the spine. He got top billing in green here. But many people consider this a Miles Davis album, which I have a little problem with that. You know, it's under Cannonball's name. Although, I think if you would ask, excuse me, if you would ask Siri, if you play the song and ask Siri who's playing this song, I think she will say Miles Davis. And a lot of searches come up like that. Granted, Miles Davis playing is quite prominent on this album. A lot of times he will have the first solo. And he did write one of the songs. There are 5 songs on here. He wrote one, and Nat Adderley wrote one, and the other 3 were standards. So let me tell you just a little bit about the songs. It opens up with Autumn Leaves, the Johnny Mercer jazz standard. It's like 11 minutes long, but fantastic song. Miles plays his muted trumpet, which it fits this song perfectly. Sometimes during this period, sometimes I got a little just a little tired of hearing the muted trumpet used quite a bit, but hey, it fits the song. Great one. Second song on the first side is called Love for Sale. That's the Cole Porter standard. I believe everybody did this. I think Dexter Gordon, I don't know. Great song, great musicianship. Now turn it over to the other side. The first song is the title track, Something Else. Now this was written by Miles Davis. And Miles does not use his mute on this song. And it sounds, this is a really, really good song. I would rank it up with any of Miles' songs. He and Cannonball, they kind of trade licks back and forth. Just a well-composed song. Now the second song, on the second side, this is a little interesting. It is called One for Daddy-O. This was written by Nat Adderley, Cannonball's younger brother who played cornet. Now Nat does not appear on this album, but he wrote this song. And I feel that, I don't think Cannonball was known that much for his composing ability. He had a great sound, he played great. But Nat Adderley probably would be the one that was known for his composing ability. And this is a really good song. It's a blues. And it's interesting at the end of this song, kind of like on the run out, you can hear Miles Davis in his raspy voice. He says, "Is that what you wanted, Alfred?" Referring to Alfred Lyons, the co-founder and producer of Blue Note and this record. So I would like to hear the backstory on that. It could be two things. Maybe Miles was just saying, "Hey, we nailed this song. We nailed this." And he asked Alfred, "Is that what you wanted?" Or could it be that Alfred maybe suggested for them to maybe play this way? And we will never know. I've never really heard anybody talk about that, but it's interesting. And the last song is called Dancing in the Dark. Very nice song. So this right here is a solid 5, of course. The cover, it's a Blue Note. It does not have a photograph. And it's very simple. All it has is lettering. I give it a 5. Just beautiful. The Cannonball's name's in green. Very plain, yet elegant. So that's it for today on Jazz Review. So it's a little dismal outside. I had to move my camera close to the window to get enough light to film this video. So everybody out there, have a good day. Take care. I'll see you the next time. See ya.